Hello, and welcome to another episode of Mitten Backstage. Hope you're doing well. And today, I'm excited to have Ian Thompson on the podcast. I've known Ian for a few years now. We've played in different bands, different projects, as a duo in certain times and places. And we recently made a trio with our friend Nathan Coles called Normal Mode, and we've been playing alternating weekends at the Listening Room for my residency, as well as finishing up our second album release. If you enjoyed today's conversation, you can support podcasts like these by going to patreon.com/Tracy Snedeker. There, you can get early access to podcast episodes, discounted merch from the bands that I perform with, a monthly mailed newsletter with the Sticker of the Month Club, and the ability to hire me for instruction, consultation, or recording services as a studio musician. You can also head over to DutcherSnedeker.com to see what I'm up to all around the internet. So thanks again, and feel free to share this episode with someone who you think would enjoy the types of conversations I'm having with Michigan musicians. All right, let's get right into the episode with Ian Thompson. No one's here. Yeah, how's it going?
It's going good. It's going good. I was just looking for some comic strips. I was trying to find some. These are some comic strips from a Super Happy Fun Time tour I went on that one of the cast members wrote up, and I was trying to find. I can't find the one that details the story of me. Well, us coming back to a hotel in like the middle of Iowa, and there was like blood everywhere. Someone had gotten stabbed.
Oh yeah.
And it was detailed in one of these, and I'm really bummed I can't find it. It's probably somewhere around my house, but the memory is clear though. So.
Yeah. There's the visual of because you said there's like a guy who was like clearly injured and in the source of all the blood, and you're just like, what's happening? And
it was I guess to back up, if anyone, I don't know if you want to introduce me, Dutcher. No one knows who I am. No one knows who I am or what I do or cares.
Yeah. I mean, I usually do an intro portion at the top, a separate clip, but okay. I'll at least say that you're Ian Thompson. You're a bass player in Grand Rapids. You play with groups like, Cameron Blake and our trio Normal Mode and Super Happy Fun Time Burlesque Show and area schools for musicals and other bass hats on Upright and Electric. And then all of you're doing like things with, I don't know, your degrees are in like agriculture or like city planning or like, I don't know, you're doing like 8 other jobs.
Yeah, close enough. It's yep. You can blur out my face and change my voice, right?
Yeah, I'll just make it all anonymous. It's all
I've got people all over town who, I'm trying to be in hiding.
Yeah, this is all from a remote location.
I'm in an opera house in Amsterdam right now, actually. So
yeah, and I have NordVPN, which I don't fully understand, but I know it means I'm either trying to watch, Japanese Netflix or I'm a cyber criminal. So that's always helpful. Those are the only 2 things you can use a VPN for, and the only thing they seem to advertise is like you've already watched all of American Netflix somehow. Have you checked out, England's Netflix? They have Harry Potter, and it's like, what? That's what? So
yeah. And for filing, you need a VPN to file for unemployment if you are in a different. I think if you're in like a different country or something. I think they figured that out. My friend, I think he got caught doing that.
Trying to find.
He's on like Mexican Wi-Fi or something, and he was like filing for Michigan unemployment.
It's like, I'm gonna be back there. Just figured I'd get some unemployment while I'm in Mexico. Yeah. Well, and you know, I feel like I always get those layers of encryption or technology things, and then you get them, and then there's that thought in your head that's like, this stuff has always been around for like free, for like, you know, like the Onion router and like all these the layered encrypted free browsers and stuff. And it's like, it's weird having a company that's like it more infrastructure, but it's also like, you know, they're selling it. It's almost like, especially since they market it as like, oh, you could watch other shows in other countries. It's almost like you're buying like an upgraded cable package or something. It's like, you can get the true Netflix experience if you pay, you know, this chunk of money. But I got a good deal, so I can't complain. But yeah, how's the I don't know. I mean, you've been doing a ton of stuff with classes, but you also have, you know, since we've been getting together at the listening room, I remember you saying that you had your bass needing repairs from, I don't know, was it temperature or was it just like things were breaking or?
Yeah, might have been a combination of things, but I think it was mainly the humidity. I think it was I hear it was a really dry winter, comparatively to other winters in Michigan. And I had my humidifier on going, you know, pretty much, I would say 12 hours a day, but it's just like one of those cheap humidifiers. And I woke up in the middle of the night to a big pop, 5 a.m. And I was like, what the heck was that? And I thought it might have been my bass, but I checked it because it was in my room, and I was up and I was half asleep. And I went back to sleep and woke up the next morning, and there was a huge crack. You know, one was like this big, and then another smaller one in the same plane on the side of my bass. So I think it was just the dryness. You know, it did it. It did it. So it's in the shop. It's been in the shop for a month. Aaron at Guarneri House has to take apart he's got to take off the back of the bass and get inside into the guts and do all the surgery that costs a lot of money, and I don't have insurance on the bass either. So
it's just like, cool. Thanks, the weather, for.
Yeah, it's one of those things with insurance on an instrument. It's like you can pay, you know, you can pay a company, I don't know, like Clarion, or there's other companies where you can pay, you know, somewhere from 30 to 60 bucks a month for insurance on your bass, and then that would have covered my expenses. But I haven't had to bring my bass into the shop for like 2 years, so it's kind of like, this is like the same. If I would have had insurance, the amount of money would have been pretty much the same that I'd be paying for. I think you can also add instruments into your homeowner's insurance if you have homeowner's insurance too.
Oh, yeah, I heard that about the like some of the video game collector people I follow on YouTube. They give tips on how to like get your collection insured, and one of the ways you can do it is just by, you know, having I guess it's, you don't even need a big audience. It's just like having a viewership that you show your collection to, that's kind of like a video evidence of like, this is what I own and this is all in my house. And that it's not just that, but it's like using that as like a starting point is better than just saying you have stuff. And it can be added into your homeowners, I think.
That you use it for a certain purpose that gives you income or something, maybe.
Yeah, that's probably it. Because some of them, you know, they're regular, like they post a video a week, or they have a schedule when they post, and then others are like they post some really big update, and then 2 or 3 months might go by before another big update, but there's still, you know, people who see the notification and watch it, and it might be like 15,000 people, but yeah, it's still, I guess it's still somewhat counts because it's still part of a thing that they've been doing for multiple years. But I just thought it was interesting that like that part of your insurance can just go into like if I talk about my gear, like that could be, if I had a home or something, I could lump that in supposedly. But
Yeah, I don't know how exactly that works. I know with, an instrument like most instruments, you have to have an appraisal for it. So I'd have to go get an appraised and see, have a luthier take a look at it and say like this is worth $6,000, and then that way you can show it to your whatever insurance company or your homeowner's insurance and add that on. Can you hear that train in the back?
only it comes in and out, I think, with the compression, but well, that's a good point with appraisal, because I always think of like I'm more aware of like what types of things I'm buying, if it's like a collectible, or because I don't really buy like trinket collectibles. It's usually just like some piece of music gear, I don't know, video game related stuff. And it's not frequently enough to feel like I'm actively doing it. But I think of, I've been watching clips from Hotel Hell, one of Gordon Ramsay's fine shows. And there's this dude who like thought he was like, just killing it with antique buying and like, like vintage art. And they showed all of his stuff in the room, and it was like a ton of their, because they're like in debt. And it's like, well, let's liquidate some of this stuff that's just sitting in storage. And they brought an appraiser. And before the appraiser got there, he was like, yeah, I've spent probably like, close to 300 grand on all of this stuff over the years. And, it's like giant canvas paintings and like old, silverware and furniture. And the appraiser comes in, like kind of does a quick glance around the room and is like, yeah, it's, I'd say about 25,000. And he was like, what? And it's like, and he's like, well, what about this painting? She's like, it's a fake, and it's not a good fake. Like you can see the fake artist's signature at the bottom. Like stuff that it wasn't even like he was tricked. It was just like the appraiser's just like, this dude's really dumb and thinks he was like really cool buying this stuff. And I feel like that's like the best part of her job, is just to like destroy people's ego.
It's good for TV too.
Yeah, just like yeah, he always brings in someone who's just like, I've already brought you down here. I want you to go beneath the earth and how low, like you're not on kitchen success, you're on kitchen nightmares.
Yeah. Yeah, it must feel good to, go home after a long day of work of just bashing other people for how terrible they are.
Yeah. And to like have, because if it was like, if it was just like, oh, it's it's only a couple people, or like, oh, it's but when there's like moldy food and like rats and cockroaches in the kitchen, and people just like, yeah, that's just how we run our business. It's like, what? This chicken is green. It's not supposed to be green. So I don't know if there's, I feel like the musical equivalent of that though is like, it's just certain private instructors. I definitely know that I had one in high school who made me into a really good pianist, but he was notorious for kind of being that person who would go to a master class and some high schooler would come play a piece and they might mess up a little bit, or they might have, a certain maturity of development in some complicated piece. And then instead of offering like, little criticisms here and there, like, criticism with how to, learn from a mistake or something, he's just like, I don't know why you showed up today. Like, why did you play this? It's really bad. Get off the stage.
Yeah. I think I know we were talking about this a little bit on Friday night with Nathan. about the difference in instruction that some people have. And I know Nathan was saying that there was a professor who was just extremely brutal. And I've had those teachers too, where they're brutal, man. And it's like you go home with your head down and you're like, maybe you're a little teary-eyed. But I don't know, sometimes you need it a little bit. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like there's a balance. Like I think sometimes you need a little reality check that's harsh, you know?
Yeah. Well, especially because I mean it's like that instructor who was like definitely more stern and was that kind of person who, like, if you did exactly to the T what he wanted you to do each week and come prepared, like he was your best friend. But as soon as you like did one little hiccup, he'd kind of just turn into like, man, like why are you wasting my time? And it's like, I'm sorry, I played 2 sports and I'm in high school and I don't know. But he could at least back it up with like, you know, I definitely excelled as a performer because of him. And it taught me too to never take any performance or thing like entirely too relaxed. Like like the only time I could relax is if it was out of like some sort of confidence or like, oh, okay, it's a wedding gig. I've done wedding gigs before. I know most of these charts, like it's going to be fine. Yeah. So there's at least that, but
yeah. I mean that, yeah, I mean, it can go a couple different ways with those types of instructors or teachers, that it can either be beneficial in the long run to, you know, have someone holding you to an extremely high standard that you need to reach versus someone who's just kind of like, you know, blind encouragement constantly of like pats on the back when it's not really neat, you know what I mean? You don't really deserve it. And, you know, so if you're constantly held to this high standard, you know, I think in the long run, it's better for you. The problem is that with those instructors, it can either be like, you can either respect those people or you can just hate them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they can either be just like tyrannical because they have power, you know, or they can just have this philosophy of you just need to be held at an extremely high standard, and I have high standards for you. So
yeah, I guess there's definitely a mix of that with the instructors I had. You know, there was always that part that there was always the weird realization that they were, you know, after all the sternness and all the like the high goal setting, there were those times they're like, nah, you'll be fine. It was like, wait, then why was there weeks of like stress? Yeah. And it's like, okay, that's cool. At least that there's, you know, there was a belief from the instructor that like, I'm not just running in circles or something, that there is some sort of progress being made. But yeah, it is, I don't know. I haven't had to have instruction for like, I mean, I could always take lessons, but I haven't had that kind of instruction for 3 years. And I think of my friend Yakiv, who
I know him.
Oh yeah. Yep. And he I don't know if you've seen any of his posts, but he's been in that focus year band program. And it's like, it's basically like it's a modern jazz musician's dream intensive year of education, where like he's been working like pretty much weekly with Ambrose Akamuseri, and he, you know, he's played concerts with Lionel Deweke and like all these like crazy, like everyone on the list of like clinicians and instructors who would do these like 2-week intensives throughout the year. They were all like, you know, easily recognizable killer musicians. And then everyone of the participants were all, it's like if Yakiv, I mean, he can play keys and probably bass and probably some guitar, but it's like if Yaki were just kind of copied over a bunch of people. It's like, oh, the guitar player is also really highly motivated and easy to work with, and so is the bass player, and so is the drummer. So they've been doing these intensives that end with concerts where they arrange a program of music that's like a blend of the clinicians' tunes and some original works, and then they have these like streamed recorded concerts, and it's like, that's crazy because he already did that one thing in, I think it was in Washington, where he got to study with Jason Moran, but it's like that level of of education in those intensives is always like really cool.
Yeah. And that, it's, that stuff totally shows in your playing too. It's, you can definitely see the difference. That's kind of a whole other level of like education than I've ever gotten, but you can even just tell on the level of like, if you go to a show with 4 bands on the bill and you watch all 4 and one of them is just like, you can just tell that they have like intensely rehearsed their parts, and like, you can just tell which bands are rehearsing and which ones are just kind of like winging it.
Right. Yeah, the ones that like they've put in effort as opposed to just like, this is fun, or I don't know.
It's even like, when I see that, even if a band is like not, maybe if the musicians aren't like really that good, or maybe the music is not really like super complex or anything, but if the band is like really tight and you can tell they have like really rehearsed, I respect that a lot more than like the band of like really good musicians who are just kind of like, winging it.
Yeah, it's like, who, like it's a throwaway gig, or like it's and it, there's that level of like, the people, I guess it's a mix of like the people who've rehearsed a lot, but also the people who know how to rehearse, because there's plenty of bands who like get together and their rehearsals are like, they're in their head, they're like, we rehearsed for like 6 hours, and it's like, well, you jammed for 2 of them, you broke for dinner for an hour, and you like kind of worked on new tunes for an hour, and then you did 2 hours of just like playing through your old set without really like making a lot of adjustments. And it's like,
and you smoke 6 joints
in
between.
And it's like, that's a rehearsal that's like more of a hang, and it's like, okay, you can do those, but like, because like even the Roots will do that. Like, I think Questlove said that every Sunday they figure out what the band, maybe not with quarantine and stuff, but every Sunday they would get together and like, oh, we're gonna do barbecue at this person's house, and then we're gonna go bowling, and it would be like a hang day that was just like to relax. And because the rest of the week is like, all right, rehearse 6 different artists that are going to be guests on the show. Like, these people are going to be playing with their band, or we're the backing band for this artist, or we have to learn a bunch of snippets of tunes for a game that Jimmy Fallon's going to do an impression to or something.
Those types of things are good for like camaraderie and just kind of keeping things like loose. Because I guess if you do kind of like are really strict all the time, it becomes like not really that fun anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, being in a relationship, you gotta, keep things, interesting and keep it loose.
Yeah.
Being in a band's like being in a relationship, man.
Yeah.
Start fighting over like who took a bigger slice of pizza or something.
Yeah. And then that's a grudge.
You don't even listen to me. You don't even
like what I listen to. You don't even like pizza, and you took it all. Yeah, it's I'm seeing that. Like, we just got back into weekly rehearsals with Earth Radio, and it's been nice kind of just getting back together, because we have a show at Rake Beer coming up I think on May 6th, and then May 7th is our new single release date. So we have to relearn not a lot of it. I remembered a lot of it from the session, but we have to relearn that single, and we have some other ones that we're working on, but it's all just like, it's like we're adding songs to the catalog, which is cool. And then we also have to be mindful of like, well, Madison might be moving to Nashville in July, like it sounds like. And all right, we have to, like, if we want to do any sort of recording or thing that needs him, this is what we got to plan out. So it's good that we're back in some sort of a planning phase instead of just like this nebulous, like, I don't know, what do you want to do?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. You mentioned, I think it must have been a text. You mentioned wanting to talk about something related to gigging. And I don't remember what it was.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, it started because I got this message on Facebook Messenger from someone who I barely know.
Mm-hmm.
He sat in on a couple of gigs that I've played over the last couple of years, and he just kind of he messaged me out of the blue and said, "Are you available? This date around this time for a gig? This date around this time for a gig?" And I was just like, I don't know why people don't understand that that's not like the best way to approach a freelance musician. And maybe it's that he doesn't understand that like I have been doing this for 7 or 8 years, and
right.
Maybe he thinks I'm just like Joe Schmo who likes, I'll play a gig for a beer and a, $25, but it's like,
yeah,
I feel like I know a lot of other people have, and I've worked really hard to like not get those gigs and to, move up to a higher standard. So that kind of was like, that would be a good thing to talk about. How do you approach, musicians you don't know for gigs, or, conversing with other musicians, or just the professionalism of all of it.
Yeah, I see that, from some folks who, I had someone ask me once, they wanted me to do sound for like 3 hours for like $50. And I was like, okay, I have to drive an hour to get there an hour early to like see how everything's set up at whatever. It's like, you don't need to bring any equipment. I'm like, okay, so I still need to get there and figure out what's going on. And then I have, 3 hours of being actively listening and trying to tweak things here and there. And then I have an hour drive home and you want that for $50. And it's been nice to like, instead of, because there's still that part of me that's in stuck in academia thought of like, take all the gigs, build your network, just do it. What money are you making right now? And now it's like, I don't have to say, like, I could just be like, nope, and not really, like, I could give a reason, or I could at least be like, hey, I'm just not available. Whether it's like I'm genuinely not available, or it's like I don't want to just flat out say like I'm not accepting that. I'm not going to make a counter offer if your offer is $50, because any counter offer I make is going to be way out of your price range. So we'll save each other time, and I'll just say no, and you can go on about your day.
Yeah. Well, and I think, people I think have to figure this out over time of experience of like, why is someone not getting back to me? Or why is someone like, why do people keep saying no to me when I'm asking them to do stuff? And it's like, with this person, I kind of wanted to just like, part of me wanted to just be that instructor we were talking about at first and just be like, no, you need to keep the bar here. You're down here. But I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and I just messaged him back and was like, hey, I need to know a little bit more information. Like, if I'm gonna take a gig, there's like a number of things that I need to know in order to say yes, especially if I don't know you and I've never played a gig with you before. So like if I don't even know you, I don't have a professional relationship with you, and out of the blue you're just like, hey, are you free around 5?
It might be 5:30, 7, 8.
Yeah. It's like already you're coming at me pretty relaxed with this here.
Yeah, I feel like people underestimate the power of like and just the like the efficiency of like finding someone if you have all the details, just laying them out, being like, here's the time, here's load-in, here's the vibe of the venue, here's pay, here's comped or not comped anything, here's what tunes, like if someone's just like, can you do a gig, it's like, okay, what kind of gig? Like, is this for a high school basketball game, or is it a 250 seat wedding, or is it a like what are we doing?
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but I probably may be able to think of some. Maybe you can think of some off the top of your head where you've just like you're a little younger and newer to the scene and you just say yes to everything without thinking ahead of those details, and then you get on the gig and you're like, wow, this is a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah,
you're like, I need to and that's a learning experience of itself. It's just like, wow, I need to. You get to the gig and you're like, okay, where's power? They don't have power. Okay, does someone have a 100-foot extension cord so the whole entire band and the PA can run off of the outlet that's in the garage?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, wait, it's outside. Wait a second, it might rain today and we're all uncovered.
Yeah.
Or wait a second, this is a dirt road and we have to walk a half a mile with our gear to get to this. Oh my God, yeah. In Iowa with Lavengood on the 4th of July a couple years ago. Oh man, yeah, I forgot. Oh yeah, this was they burned a pile of American flags. It was like that's how you retire American flags, is you burn them. So I had this like flag burning ritual. But it was pouring out all day. It was pouring out, and this was an outdoor gig, and it was a really cool place. It was some bar in the middle of nowhere in Iowa, and the stage was down in this like I don't know, this like pitted area, and then like the seats kind of went up, and it was pretty tall, and to get to the stage was just 2 dirt roads that were like really steep, and since it was raining all day, it was just covered in mud. So I took off my shoes, rolled up my pants, and I carried my upright bass down this hill and like fell on my ass twice. So I got mud all over the side of my my clothes. I'm like playing this gig. It was just, yeah, those are the types of things that's like.
Yeah, well, I have one that definitely comes to mind. I think of rain. When I was at Grand Valley doing the farmers markets, I would take 2, maybe if I'm lucky, 3 slots a season, and they usually would run like April to September. I think they would usually book. They might still do that. I haven't had anyone call, but because they usually just anyone who's played, they're like, hey, you want to do it again? And it's like you get paid $50. And, when I'm already going to campus to like practice and rehearse and all this stuff, it was like, okay, that's fine. Like it's a Wednesday afternoon. It's not going to take up a random evening gig I might have, like if it's a local spins Wednesday or something. And there's one day it was raining, like it hadn't yet started raining. They had, all the farmers market was run off of like 2 gas powered generators in a parking lot. And I had an awning that was like, it was like the thinnest type of covering that they could find, and with like a frame, and then it wasn't really weighted down. It was like kind of, so it was like, luckily it wasn't windy, but I was playing and maybe like 15, 20 minutes into my set, it just starts raining. And I'm like still kind of playing. I move all of my amp and equipment. Anything that's like on the ground, I just put on a table. and the way that the parking lots at Grand Valley are all they all just pool towards those drains. I just start seeing a river of water just slowly getting larger and larger, just running underneath my keyboard. And I'm like, hey, can I go home? It's raining. and they were like, no, you can, it's going to clear up. They said it wouldn't be that long. And then I finished my first set. And at the end of my first set, there was still water going underneath my gear. There was a significant pool of water like collecting on the awning, and it was starting to get a little windier. And I was just like, can I, like, $50 isn't going to cover my gig or my gear getting ruined. And they're like, well, yeah, I guess, I guess you can go home. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go. Like, I wasn't really asking this time.
Yeah.
Yeah, just the thought process of like, nobody's going to be here because of the rain, and why am I here in the rain?
Yeah. Yeah, you're supposed to play, Jimmy Buffett pina coladas dancing in the rain or something. I don't.
Yeah, you're supposed to do a tongue-in-cheek reference to the fact that it's raining. Play Here's That Rainy Day, or the sun will come out tomorrow, or
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's why, like, yeah, musicians almost have to be like the when you're booking those sort of gigs, like a lot of those smaller gigs, like the planners or the organizers just don't really think about those things in advance, and they don't understand the, like, those things from a musician's perspective. So it's like, that's why, the musician themselves have to, we gotta educate, we need to community outreach, Dutcher. We need to go around with clipboards door to door and
like,
start educating people.
Yeah, ma'am, were you planning on hosting a barbecue jamboree on a rainy day? Do you have an awning? Do you have adequate power? Do you understand what water and electricity do together? Is there a clause in the contract about an act of God clause in the contract? Did you write a contract?
Yeah.
Well, and I think so many people think that I think of like something like Founders Fest, where they hire onstage productions to do all the rigging of all the equipment for the staging, and then the sound team at Founders is recruited to like assist in, setting up certain things, moving, usually a lot with like stage transitions. And to the audience, it's just like, wow, Founders built this whole stage. And it's like, nope, there's this company that they paid a bunch of money to expertly rig everything and prepare for any sort of shift in the weather or shift in, temperature. Like, they were just ready for, I mean, we set up they even had an extra like tent area that we set up to be a changing area for Macy Gray that she ended up not even using. So they had stuff that like nobody even needed to use ready to go. But yeah, and so when they think like, oh, I'm going to plan a music event, and it's like, have you ever done any of that outside on your property?
Yeah.
It's like, there's also, I know people have tried to do that, and they've had like, that's the first time they've hear about permits, when it's not just like their buddies jamming in the backyard. It's like more of an event. And then they're like, why can't we do that? It's like, people get permits. People have to have some sort of insurance for things. Yeah, there's a lot of, that's why people get sponsors, so they can help pay for everything.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, as much as the B-side sessions are good for musicians, there should just be like clips for the public. Like, this is what you need to do to like make a musician happy. It's like, we don't ask for a lot. Like, we just want to get paid, fed, or some version of something comped. I don't know, fed would be nice, but some places just apparently just don't know what food is. Or they only have drinks. They're like, you wanted 13 beers for dinner, right? No. I don't even think if I was like 22, I'd want 13 beers for dinner. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I don't know if anyone's asked you to do like asked you to do something that was like, it took some time and preparation, and then something just gets canceled, and just that feeling of like, so wait, I'm not getting, I like they held this carrot at the end of the stick, and then the thing the carrot got eaten and the stick got thrown away.
Yeah, that was COVID-19.
Yeah. And this pandemic.
Yeah.
Just canceled everything. I've had that with some people who I don't really work with anymore, that if, they string me along for my time, and then it's like, there's no payoff. It's like, all the things you said would happen aren't happening.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, I don't care. Like, you could have been, and it wasn't like, a slow realization. It was just kind of like all at once it came crashing down, instead of being like, oh, I didn't realize like this would have to happen and this would have to happen. I'd take a little more time. It's just like, nope, it's all gone. All that work. And
I know. I'm starting to realize, Dutcher, that this podcast might just be a venting session for musicians. This is like we're just like, here's all the problems. Here's all the problems we have.
All these stupid. Yeah. Well, again, that's part of, I've let each podcast episode kind of define what backstage means. Like the one that'll come out later with Steve Leaf, he and I it was basically like we were just riffing the whole time. Like I don't think we covered anything like educational, aside from like certain things we were referencing or like things we were influenced by. And then we just ended the podcast. But then other people are like, have been really like focused on like, this is what I want to cover or I want to chat about, which is cool.
Yeah.
So it's backstage in the sense of like, this is kind of what you would get if you were backstage with these Michigan artists. You'd get a semblance of these types of conversations.
Yeah, totally.
And if a venue even has a backstage, if it's not just general seating and, outside is the backstage.
Right. Yeah. The side table.
Yeah.
The table next to the stage.
Yeah. And you can go just as far away from here. That's the backstage. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to doing some things this summer. I don't know if you've had anything open up in terms of, I don't know, people you normally like. I don't know if Cameron Blake's got anything cooking up or.
Yeah, we're playing Frederick Meyer Gardens in August sometime. So Frederick Meyer Gardens started their Tuesday night series again, local series, which is like free. I think it might be free to members. It's like pretty cheap to general public. So we'll see if how that goes. The summer still feels pretty. A lot of uncertainties, whether things, can cancel last minute. But yeah, the Frederick Meyer Gardens gigs, some wedding gigs are starting to come through, so that's good. I think that's probably about it, though.
Yeah, it's like it's either like whatever thing you have control over, like that's for sure. Like the rake beer stuff for Earth Radio, like we're gonna be doing that twice a month, and that I want to get to the point with Earth Radio where we can have a residency because I was reminded of the Funky Knuckles. They have their Knuck Around Mondays. So just come and knuck around with the Funky Knuckles, and that band is super tight because they've had residencies like that for years, and they've also, most of the band plays in like a church group together, so multiple times a week outside of rehearsals they're just like, you know, playing fusion covers with like all of these cool Dallas musicians, or playing their originals on tour, or playing, you know, gospel arrangements on a Sunday. So
that would that would be cool to have some more of those hangs. Like I know Speakeasy, we used to, when Brad Fritcher had that residency for a while, those were so cool for, musicians and other people, regularly hanging out. Just, it was like such a, relaxed hang, but, everything was like exciting, and we need more of this.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to pitch that for, you know, like if we're gonna do twice a month at Rake Beer on Thursdays, fill the other Thursdays with like a Grand Rapids residency or something, and like have it be a type of environment that's not necessarily Earth radio centered, but like related. Like it's the band like facilitating these types of hangs. And or, you know, if when Brad moves back with Kelly, like
he's not coming back.
He said
messaged him.
He's staying on the east side.
No, I think his wife got a residency in, like, I don't know, out west somewhere. So they're
that's they still hadn't picked it. That's right. Well,
so
we'll all have to be Brad. asking the people to open their venues to art.
Right.
Yeah,
which is exactly what they want to do right now. You know, all these business.
Let the artists come in.
Right, they can't even make their bottom line.
Yeah, they're like, let's let people come in and risk another closure of the business. Yeah, it's, and I see like some people are hosting things, but you know, I don't really know the vibe at the Social House, but I hear it's like people from Brenna. So it's like I assume lots of opportunities for covers and jams. But yeah, with those Speakeasy ones are just like, you know, like we might just start with a bass line or start with a drum groove, or and maybe Brad would quote a tune that we could go into, or we just improvise for an hour and just see what happens.
Yeah, those were fun. They were exciting.
Yeah, I think I still have some from when Brandon Copeland owned the Death House, as he called it. Old footage up on, I don't know if it's still on my YouTube or if it's archived. I might have privated it just to reset the channel, but I know I still have that footage on drives and stuff. And yeah, because some of those were like, have like 2 bass players, 2 drummers, lots of horns, guitarists, keys, all on a skater bowl.
Yeah, there you go. You can release that to your Patreon supporters, Dutch.
Yeah, I should just let people. I mean, Jim Lutz is one of my patrons, so he would probably be in some of those videos.
Jim Lutz, oh my god, it's Jim Lutz.
Yeah, I forget. I think it was wasn't it at the Speakeasy Jams that was at least where I think I first met him. Like he was in town, and
Yeah. I know I met him. I think I played with him in Super Happy Fun Time for a little while because he was the MD for a Cirque du Soleil touring group, which I think that's why he left. Like, so he moved to Grand Rapids and I think he was here for like maybe a year or something. And then I think he got another gig with Cirque du Soleil. So he started doing that again.
Right. Just fired up the touring engine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was reminded of like, it's not exactly what Jim does, but like when I subbed in those dates for Wicked and I would see the people who were like, it's like, okay, these are the people hired from the area. And then here are the people who've been on tour the whole time. And just like the difference in, it's like, these people are just like, unless it's more of the directors, they're kind of like, all right, another show and break. And they're on their phone. All right, another act. Just like that's so ingrained in their head.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Just can't help but, I don't know if it was like they were just bored or if they were just it was later in the tour maybe and they're just tired. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know you've probably done a handful of musicals. I know I have too. And yeah, they get by by the end of the run, it's just like it's like you have everything just down so pat that you don't even really have to think about when the cues are. So you're just like, all right, I know I've got like 7 minutes. I'll get on my phone, do this for a little bit. And then when I hear that one thing, I'm like, okay, yep.
Yeah. And well, it was interesting seeing like the bass player was this lady from Ann Arbor, and she had like a like, I think she had a 4 and 5 string electric, a fretless electric, and an upright bass. And she would just like have to like switch, bowed, switch,
Yeah.
just jumping around all different. And she might have even had another 4-string bass, like a different like tone option or something.
Mm,
Like
that's
just
pro.
lots of basses.
Yeah. Dang.
But
Wonder, yeah, what's her well, I guess she could just keep all her stuff. If it's a touring show though, it's like,
yeah,
like
well, I think it's because she was from Ann Arbor that she did that. I don't know if she was part of the tour. She might have just been part of like, I think Bill Vitz contracts the Michigan people for the touring performances. So Bill must have known her from some other production and called her up. Which, yeah, I'm just waiting for another one of those. Like, can you sub for like some shows? Because this time I won't have getting like being asked and then having class in Kalamazoo and then having to drive up to Grand Rapids, and I'd had the music for like a day and I had to be in rehearsal. And the director's just looking at me like, you need to learn this music. I'm like, I know, I got it yesterday. And I spent the rest of the week just like shedding the music, and I ghosted 2 performances and then did my first one. And yeah, it was just, just jam packed into like less than a week. It's like, you're going to play on Sunday. You get the music Monday, rehearsals Tuesday, you're ghosting shows Friday, Saturday. Good luck.
yeah.
It's like, this has to happen. There's no like, well, I guess we just won't have this part.
Right.
It's not like, I don't know. It helped me learn the feeling of like using my left foot for MIDI patch changes. And just having to be like, all right, measure 10, click, just keep playing, click. All right, it's a harp and timpani roll and click. But I don't know, they're fun. I still need to edit in. I have a bunch of footage from Mamma Mia from last year that I need to just sync some audio and video and put it out. That might be something I do this week.
There you go.
But yeah, I don't know. You and Nathan, I mean, you've been playing the musical gigs together, and you have the church gig together too. It's a very, I feel like most people don't realize the Michigan gigging like upbringing is like, all right, you've had some church gigs, you've had some working for any of these schools gigs, and then you've had the random jammy freelance gigs.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel pretty, I don't know. I don't know, I guess fortunate maybe. I feel like I've been all over the place as far as like when my first gig was like with a cover band. And then I went to GRCC and was there for like 3 years studying classical and then jazz bass. And while I was in school, I was also taking breaks to tour with Super Happy Fun Time. So I was doing that for 2 to 3 weeks at a time. Somehow I got my professors to be okay with me leaving for like 2 or 3 weeks during the school semester. I don't know how. They liked me, I guess. I don't know, but
like you turn and work. That's all we ask.
yeah. And so yeah, I did that. And while I was playing with Super Happy, I was also playing at multiple different churches, like rotating. So I was playing at a Pentecostal church with D Washington, actually. I think that's where I met D. And then I was also playing at like a kind of a non-denominational church. That was like I would play a Super Happy Fun Time gig, like, ones that were either in Grand Rapids or, St. Joe or Traverse City or something, and on a Saturday night, and then I would have to go play at like a Pentecostal church at 9 in the morning or something, or earlier, depending on which church. So I'd still have like glitter in my beard and probably was like a little hungover. Yeah, I was doing that, and I've like did musicals for a while. I've done stuff with the Circle Theater, and then some high schools, Rockford and Forest Hills and Hudsonville and Jenison, and then yeah, I mean, stuff with Lavengood and some jazz gigs and wedding band gigs. So yeah, I feel like I've, I get around,
Yeah. you get the full spread of things to do. And
Yeah.
I think people forget, or who don't live in the area, I guess. I don't know how, it must be like this in other states, but I feel like Michigan has a lot of like, you drive 30 minutes, you have a city that has a couple venues, a school, maybe a community college, and then, like that's something you could find employment doing, or, a one-off gig here or there, an event, or like there's all these little like it's like there's Grand Rapids, and then there's like mini versions or more rural versions of Grand Rapids, and then there's Detroit, and then there's like less urban versions of Detroit on the east side, and then there's Traverse City, and there's other little towns also close to some body of water near Traverse City. And it's like there's like, I guess like New York obviously is New York City, but it's nice to have like proximity. Like if you meet a handful of people, you're gonna start having that network of like, oh, I've met a couple teachers, I know the web of teachers now. Oh, I've met a couple people who book talent for like some venues in the area. I have a little bit of an idea of who's booking around the city. And
Mhm.
yeah.
It's like Grand Rapids itself isn't that big of a city, and there's not a ton of opportunities, but yeah, you have, it's not that far to Grand Haven or Muskegon or even really, Traverse City's a couple 2.5 hours. And so yeah, I never really get over to the east side of the state though. I feel like that is kind of like, I know there's not a lot of cross pollination between like, the east side and the west side of the state.
Yeah, that's what that's kind of why I hired John Muir Cotton for some of those trio gigs. I mean, other than the fact that he's a great bass player, but I was just in my head like, I need some other people to know some of the people on this side of the state so that we can start like mixing it up. And that's kind of been cool to have like David interacting with Earth Radios, because there's all these players in that area that are great that I probably wouldn't have heard about. Or I think about earlier this morning I saw that what's his full name? I know it's Austin.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you'd think I'd know that because his name is also my name, but I'm not confident. But he, I mean, I can look it up right now. But basically, it was a trumpet player from the east sides. I guess he's more centralized, studying in Lansing. Austin Muthayala.
Oh yeah. I've played a couple of gigs with him. With BWK.
Yep, he and John just did a recording for. It was probably like someone's like senior recital, but they did I think a septet. It might have been a sextet of arrangement of a tune called A off of Nicholas Payton's album Letters. He has an album called Numbers with Butcher Brown, and then an album called Letters with something else. But this is like pre anyone even caring about Butcher Brown, is like they're the backing band for Numbers. But they did an arrangement of A off of Letters, and Nicholas Payton shared it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And just that reminder of like, all right, some people are just, they're paying attention. It doesn't matter where you're located. Sometimes like some people are paying attention to, they click on an arrangement and they go like, that was cool, shared. Like, so there's definitely players in Michigan that are doing cool stuff that they just, I know for me, it's like trying to contact all the press outlets anytime I try to do anything would be kind of dumb. It would get the word out, but it'd be a lot of work. Just being like, I'm also doing this, and then local spins and review and GVU and WICE and all the college radios and it's like, I need to hire a promoter then, or like a publicist or whatever person does that. But yeah, it's I don't know, good state full of people who are at least trying. I feel like there's people trying, there's people succeeding, and then there's people who are like, you know what, they're gonna just do that. Like whatever you see them doing, they're gonna be in their 60s doing that, and that's they've found the trajectory, and that's cool, but that's not my life. I'll always have that like steady climb of like, I need to try other things and not just, I don't know. I can't, I don't, it would take a while for me to feel content enough to be like, I'm just in my own cabin in the woods down by the creek, and I'm just got my skipping rock and my dog Buster, and we're it's like, first of all, I don't know how to survive in the woods, so I'd need to be near a city, or I'd have to learn how to hunt. And second of all, I'm a musician, so I have my strength and speed are enough to just carry instruments.
Right. Yeah, you don't have any survival skills.
No, I could barter. I could barter anything music related. But if society collapsed, I wouldn't get as much food as someone else. It's just the hierarchy of importance. It's like, this guy can rebuild roads. This guy can help rebuild roads. You play piano. Like, I can shovel. I can do stuff. But yeah, it's I I don't know. I'm at least glad that if you are trying to do things, there's people who are looking out for those kind of people who want to get you plugged into different stuff. So we don't always have, like you're not always having someone hit you up that you barely know to play a cheap gig or something with no details. You have like a friend of a friend who needs a bass player for a run of musicals, and the school's got a decent budget, and it's like, oh, this will be a good month of work, or fun program to play, or nice vibe.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. I know there's always more to talk about, but and we already, like, if we were just film all the other conversations we have in normal mode, right, and all the other things, it'd be an 8-hour podcast.
Right. We'll just have to start wearing body cams at rehearsals.
Yeah. Everything's content. Don't not say anything. Just post it. But yeah, where I don't know. You don't have Facebook, so when I say where could people find you, it's a very interesting question. It's probably like you have to show up to events to find you.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I guess that's the bonus of being a bassist, is that, I don't really need a Facebook. I don't know. Go through Dutcher. It's like, go to you. If you want to find me, you can go through Dutcher. I have an Instagram.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I mean, social media is like I don't know. It's always been something I don't do very well. I don't really like it very much, and I've always struggled with how much I should use it. And so I still have my Instagram that has, pretty much I use just for promoting shows and new music. And, my album that, you recorded on is on all the streaming platforms, and we'll have one coming out soon.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get a billboard or something.
Yeah, it's just, this is Ian Thompson. Here's what he does.
Here's he doesn't have a Facebook, but here he is.
Yeah, I go away from technology. I do guerrilla advertising from, I use billboards, flyers, word of mouth.
Yeah, maybe like on milk cartons. Maybe I could start putting my stuff on milk cartons.
Until that day comes, you can support these podcasts on patreon.com/Dutcher Snedeker. If you want to, toss $5 or $10 or $1 million. Nobody says you can't do that.
Hey, thanks for having me, Dutcher. It's been a real pleasure.
It's been a real honor and a privilege. It's been a real
to talk with such a scholarly gentleman like yourself.
Yeah, I feel like I needed a Norman